everyone. Welcome to LRT AVS panel. I'm Jiawei, investment principal from IOSG Ventures. I'm super excited to be here and moderate this panel. So yeah, from the very beginning, I would like everyone to introduce yourself, the projects you're working on. Yeah, starting from you.
I'm Cameron. I'm not Lucas, but I'm a core contributor at Renzo. Renzo Protocol, I'm sure you guys are familiar with restaking and what we do. We're a liquid restaking platform and strategy manager for EigenLayer. We've had quite a bit of success so far. We're at 2.7 billion in TVL. We're averaging around 100 million a day at this stage. So we're up 200% over the past 30 days. So we're really proud to be the most liquid LRT, which we think is really important. We're on 6 L2s right now. That's been a big strategy for us. So 7 chains, including ETH mainnet. We have about 20% of our TVL on L2s, so around 600 million. 80 DeFi integrations, so not much sleep, but but very happy to be working with Renzo and to be on the panel and to hear more.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ivan, the CMO of Stakestone. So Stakestone is an omni-chain liquidity distribution infrastructure provider. So recently we are backed by Binance and OKX. I think the news came out like last week or 2 weeks ago. So I think we're getting a bit of traction there. And of course, our TVR is not as big as Renzo yet, but I think we'll get there. Thank you, everyone.
Hey guys, this is Chris, also known as Mr.Block. I've been in the crypto industry for the past 10 years, and a core contributor at Curve for 4 years, and now also a core contributor at Puffer. So, like our fellow panelists, we're also backed by Binance. And at the same time, I think in the recent, we might announce really good investor that will change a lot of the DNA at Puffer as well. And more importantly, I think Puffer is uniquely positioned in a way that we focus a lot on the decentralization of the LRT, and at the same time having Ethereum Foundation at the backing. At the same time, try to differentiate us from multiple other LRT protocol, and also made it possible for both institutional and at-home staker to run validator safely. So, I think what we're seeing right now in the LRT market is just tip of the iceberg. We might be in one of the most important transition in Ethereum. So yeah, really happy to be here to share more about Puffer.
Hello, everyone. I'm YJ. I'm the co-founder of OpenLayer. So we are a user-operated RTO built on EigenLayer. We are the AVS, and we enable every developer. They can bring the off-chain data from Web2 API to the on-chain world. And personally, I have worked in crypto for 4 or 5 years. Before OpenLayer, I was working at Robinhood, a US stock and a crypto exchange, as a tech lead there. Yeah, so looking forward to talking more about AVS today.
Thank you guys for the intro. From the very beginning, let's get started with super simple questions. What is LRT and what's in AVS? I know like many of them may know this, but if our panelists can give like some analogy, it would be super interesting. How can users participate in the related projects like Renzo, Stakestone, and Puffer? And like maybe we can also delegate to OpenLayer.
Okay, that's a loaded question. LRTs, liquid restaking tokens, people are familiar with LSTs, right? Liquid stake tokens. Liquid staking tokens, I guess, compete for parity with ETH on moneyness and utility. LRTs, I think, compete on total risk-adjusted return. You think about LSTs with strategies, there's a single asset, it's ETH, it's one reward token, it's ETH. With LRTs connecting to AVSs, it's much more complex. With even 3 AVSs, there's 7 different strategies. There's A, B, C, A and B, A and C, etc. With 15 AVSs, there's 30,000. With 100 AVS, it's hundreds of millions of different strategies that have to be managed. So it's incredibly complex. So anyways, difference between LRTs, I think, and LSTs is important to understand. And then AVS is maybe the OpenLayer team can help describe, but actively validated services that connect into EigenLayer. The restaking yield comes from the ETH that we delegate to the AVSs. eventually when there's market dynamics, there's risk and reward that's at play, but that's the big thing that's still yet to be live yet. But yeah, hope that helps. Users can participate with Renzo in a variety of ways. I was asked to do a demo day at an OKX event the other day, and I told them it would last 10 seconds because you just go to Renzo, you go to the app, you select your network, you select the asset, you press the button, you get easy ETH. So we make it as easy as possible to restake. I think that's like our raison d'etre, like our reason for existence, or at least for us. We have the L2s that I spoke to. We have a myriad of DeFi integrations and liquidity and things like that. So go to the Renzo app. You can see the DeFi integrations. You can select your favorite chain there. We're on Arbitrum, BNB, Mode, Linea, Blast, now Base as well, with more coming soon. So there's lots of things we're working hard on for users to not only, get easy ETH and participate in restaking, but then, use their easy ETH within DeFi applications, which I think is really important for LRTs moving forward, that utility and liquidity. I mean, it's a liquid restaking token, so I think it's a really big piece of it to be understood. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
All right. So I think a lot of people associate Stakestone just as an LRT token, but actually we are not really just an LRT token because we are on the omni-chain liquidity infrastructure provider. So we want to act like a modular kind of a middleman between protocols, projects, and also the stakers. So what we're trying to do is really just to be quite omni-chain because we'll be on layer 0. So I think that's the difference of Stakestone with the other players in the industry.
All right. I think a good way to understand LRT is if we think about the Ethereum validator like teachers, right? We're all teachers, and Ethereum is a school. In order to teach in this school, you need to put up a collateral, which is 32 ETH. So you go into the school, and then you teach a subject, which is math, for example, right? So you're a math teacher. Now, every year running this validator, the school principal asks you to be, 75% of the time or 85% of the time you have to be in school. But you might not have students every day. You might only have a few students, And then, but you can also teach math. You can also teach English, or you can teach Chinese. You can teach many other languages. And these are AVS, basically, right? Where you can earn extra yields from these students that are willing to pay for your teaching. So Ethereum is one of the most decentralized computer out there, right? So EigenLayer essentially create this open marketplace that you can come here and, teach different things and utilize the security of Ethereum. And there are multiple things that you can teach, right? So for example, Oracle, you can make it much safer. For example, rollup, right? Most rollup right now use centralized sequencer. But through EigenLayer, through these LRTs such as Puffer, you can make it much more decentralized. So I think one of the uniqueness about, if we look at most of the LRT out there right now, what people only focus on right now is the TVL. They think whoever that has the most TVL is the strongest. But that's entirely not true. Like I mentioned earlier, the current LRT market is just tip of the iceberg. The next phase of the LRT marketplace is really about which AVS that you can collaborate with. Whoever that can essentially pay you to teach math, pay you to teach English, pay you to teach Chinese. And that will significantly increase the staker's yield, right? So LRT removed the complexity, similar to how Lido does, right? And then now, not only you're securing the Ethereum network, you're also helping, Chainlink, for example. You're helping, dare I say, even Solana might use the Ethereum validator to secure their network and DA. So that's kind of what LRT and AVS is. And I think that's one of the most simple way when you look at it is utilizing the existing technology of the Ethereum and make it possible. So even L1, right? Most of the L1 right now, they have to build their own consensus. They have to find a way to make it more decentralized, but it's really hard to bootstrap that in the beginning. It's also really hard to scale that. So Ethereum has all the validator there. I think right now around 950K, almost 1 million validator. So you can tap into that directly. And yeah, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, I think yeah, they gave a pretty good introduction of the LRT. I can chime in a little bit on AVS side. So if you think of IOSG as a marketplace, basically it's a marketplace for the decentralized trust. Then the supply side is people's restaked ETH. And the demand side is actually the AVS, actively validated service. So before IOSG, let's say if I want to build an article or a bridge or roll up, I need to bootstrap by myself. I need to find my own validator network. I need to get in touch with the operators, negotiate with them, persuade them to support us. But IOSG makes all of this process pretty smooth. You don't need to spend too much overhead cost on talking to the operators, but you can easily bootstrap your validators, your trust network. So basically that's what AVS is. And I think on one side, what IOSG does is it lowers the entry barrier of a protocol to build, to bootstrap, which will also incentivize more DeFi apps, more bridges to compete, to build on top of it. On the other hand, IOSG increase the efficiency of the capital. For it basically makes you restate ETH to have another piece of revenue, but you don't need to you don't need to spend more cost on it. Yeah, so yeah, that's it.
Thank you. We have a couple of LRT's projects here, so I will ask you guys a question and come back to YJ later. Yeah, for LRT projects like Renzo, Stakestone, and Puffer, among all the AVS they are going to mainnet, for example, like Omni Network, like Orange, I know they got some commitment recently from you guys. And what criteria do you use to evaluate each project? And how do you plan on allocating your capital among these projects? I mean, there could be tens of hundreds of AVS. How do you select them?
It's complicated, but I mean, well, for now it's simple because there's not slashing, which eliminates the risk. I mean, eventually there's market dynamics that allow risk and reward. That's the open marketplace. That's where the restaking yield is going to come into play. There's 30 AVSs in this initial cohort. So there's enough due diligence and validation with EigenLayer and things like that. It's kind of a permission set in a way. So we hope to work with all the AVSs, especially, this initial set. But I mentioned earlier just how complex it is with 3 AVSs, let alone 30 or 60 or 300. So there is a risk framework that we have to take into consideration. I think governance for LRTs is going to be really interesting when holding a governance token allows you to participate in a DAO that determines what AVSs you might work with. Are you using AI for risk mitigation? Do you have a guy who has a TradFi background, is used to working with bonds or junk bonds or collateralized assets? What does that look like? We have our own theories, in internal risk frameworks at play, of course, but I think that for us, the more the better is shared security. It's not attributed. So I think it's almost a question for the AVSs, how much do you need? Not every AVS needs $5 billion of security, right? Not every AVS is an L2. There's rollups, there's middleware, there's policy engines, there's OpenLayer, et cetera. So I think it depends. But the more security they need, the more ETH we have to delegate, the more risk there is, the more reward they have to pay us for that risk. So for us, I mean, there's a lot of coordination, but I think the more the better, I think in general, but it's yet to be seen. I think that the AVSs need to also inform LRT providers, how much you need. Athos is a policy engine. They're great, but they might only need 500 million, whereas eOracle or OpenLayer, I don't know, they might need 5 billion, or they might say as much as you can give us, please. So it'll be interesting to kind of find out once slashing comes into play, especially too.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think it's a bit like when you're investing in any company, right? You look at the team, you look at what they're doing or what they're trying to build, and also I think a lot of things, even whether you're investing or you're choosing which AVS that you want to work or which protocol you want to work with, it's always about like how much do you believe in the team. I think the people behind the team is actually the most important when it comes to this.
Yeah, I think it's well said by our panelists, and then for the risk alignment, for example, in the beginning there's no slashing, right? So once slashing is up, slashing will be one of the most important criteria, because if you think about when you have 10 different AVSs and each has different bonding period, so essentially the rule is you have to choose the longest one, right? So let's say you have an AVS that has 3 days bonding period, and then one that has 20 days. So then, even the 3 days one would have to wait for the 20 days. So essentially you have to think about like, what's the kind of risk adjustment there? But at the same time, you have to think about the reward criteria, where how would that affect your staker, right? So if you think about it in the future, when you stake Puff ETH, you will be getting, let's say all the 10 AVSs has tokens. So essentially you'll be earning 10 different tokens, right? And how does that affect your staker? And how does that incentivize your staker to stake on Puffer? At the same time, Puffer, we're having our own risk committee that includes folks from EigenLayer, folks from Ethereum Foundation, Gauntlet, Nethermind, and we'll increase that committee as we grow. That will help us better adjust and align with our staker and the validators, right? And lastly, I think to kind of understand how do we distribute these rewards correctly can also significantly affect these rules. So I think not only EigenLayer, all of us LRT are growing, but at the same time we are helping EigenLayer to shape this rule as well. So I think right now, because of Puffer having some of the EigenLayer team as investor, can help us work closely to better design these rules to understand it before deployment. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it will also be a super interesting dynamic situation. Like if let's say over Oracle, you're securing a lot of TVL on top of some DeFi protocols, and suddenly more TVL coming to these DeFi protocols, and so you need to get more security from EigenLayer to make their consolidate the whole system. So I think it's super interesting, also related to slashing conditions. For YJ, as an AVS, how do you guys select LRT? For example, TVL, branding, team, operator, etc.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting question. I can talk about how we select operators first. Actually, in theory, for every AVS, we want to onboard as many operators as possible. The reason is stakers, they have to, how they select the AVS they want to enroll in is they need to select the operators they want to use, and through the operators, they can select the AVS. So that means if you want more stakers to stake ETH in your AVS, you want to onboard as many operators as possible. However, in the practice, I would say most of the AVS I have seen, they usually use 10 to 20 operators. And also on the other hand, for each of the operators, they also usually use they usually support 10 to 20 AVS as well. Because you don't want to give users too many options within operators. And also how we select it, it depends on your relationship, the trust, whether or not you are easy to work with. And also I know some of the operators, they have strategic invested in some of the AVS. Yeah, so basically it's a many-to-many mapping relationship between the AVS and the operators. And in regards to LRTs, I would say because there are too many operators, I would say there are more than 100 operators on EigenLayer, but I don't think there are too many LRTs. The pretty good name LRTs, I would say there are just 10 probably, And I would say most AVS, they want to partner with like all of these LRTs. Basically, they are the teacher. They do the AVS strategy management. So you have to partner with them to basically let them to put you in their portfolio and their like candidate selection.
Yeah. Thank you. As normal users, I think we have seen a lot of LRTs like playing the market, but we haven't seen a lot of AVS launch on the mainnet yet. So I'm so curious, like from your perspective, what will be the most important thing for AVS projects? Will it be like the yield or the risk profile, or like the TVL like locked into or delegated to the AVS?
So the question is, what's the most important thing for an AVS when we're evaluating? I mean, the good thing about EigenLayer is it allows this flywheel of innovation, you know, for projects to have the shared security. They don't have this cold start problem. So there's all different kinds of AVSs that are possible, right? I think what's interesting is when incentives are aligned, and maybe this is off topic, but you know, when a user deposits ETH with Renzo, it helps EigenLayer, it helps the AVSs because we delegate that ETH that a user deposits. So I think this is just the beginning of what's possible. I mean, there's different metrics or KPIs depending on the category of an AVS. You know, an Oracle has different KPIs than a layer 2. You know, sometimes it's users as well. I think it's the team, as you mentioned. You know, like being a firm believer in the team and what they're doing and their value proposition. So, I mean, there's TVL and there's yield, but I think that crypto also loves speculation and points and opportunity. I think overall, we like it when we can find AVSs that we have the relationship where we're delegating ETH to secure them, but also we can use them as an AVS as well, right? So it's not just this kind of transactional relationship where we're just they say we need security, we say okay, how much? They say $1 billion, we say okay, here, you know, and then that's the relationship. Hopefully, with a lot of AVSs, especially in this initial cohort, there's other ways that we can work with them, right? Whether they're an Oracle, whether it's a data availability service, whether it's a rollup, etc. So.
I think TVL and you, I think kind of goes hand in hand. I think for a basic user, I think if you look at any protocols who has a low TVL, you kind of skeptical about it as well, right? Until when the TVL is a bit higher, all your friends are into it, and you're FOMOing in. Right? I think that's general, like what Web3 people do. Like most of them FOMO in, and the TVL just keeps growing, and the yield keeps growing for everyone as well. So I feel that like whether which is important, I think both are. TVL is definitely important for projects because that's where the listing part comes in, right? That's what, like, you know, the exchanges look at. And I think for you, it's definitely, it works for both ways, whether it's the user or for the project itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a balance between the TVL and yield, because some AVS, they might set up their own cap on the TVL. So it's hard to say like whoever that has the highest TVL, then you choose that AVS. At the same time, you want to make sure that there's transparency in hand, right? We're already seeing that with a lot of DeFi integration within the LRT protocol where, you know, the yield might not be as transparent. So I think one of the most important part here for our staker is to make sure that these rewards are transparent and the slashing rules are transparent. Because if you don't have a transparent rule around slashing, then what you could hurt is your stakers, right? You could get penalized, and that's like one of the worst things that could happen on the LRT protocol. So yeah, to answer that question, I think transparency and all is the most important part. And how do we set rule to the AVSs? We have at Puffer, we have our own kind of anti-slashing standard that we will work with the AVSs to set up these rules together. so that it match. And it kind of goes forward to what I mentioned earlier on the bonding period, right? You don't want to have one that has like 20 days, another one that has 2 days. You want to make sure it has an average date so that you kind of set out that rule and set out that standard. So once you have the standard, other AVSs will follow that standard. Then it becomes much easier to onboard these AVSs onto your RRT.
Yeah, so as Cameron and other people said, I don't think most of the AVS they need extensive security, especially when they are at their early stage. So that means, that means many of the AVS they have a tab on the TVL. They don't need too much TVL in actually. And in terms of the yield, I would say, like we are in crypto, and usually people do not care about the like 0.2 or 0.3 difference in the yield. But I think what people care more is the safety of your fund. For example, as Mr.Block just mentioned, the transparency of the slashing rules. That's what people care. And another thing I want to compliment here is basically it's the potential upside of your token. Because what IOSG provides is basically an infrastructure component. But whether or not your project will succeed, will still comes back to the value proposition of your project. So whether or not staters think your project is doing something very interesting, has the upside potential, so they will choose your project instead of just the 0.2 or 0.3 difference in the yield. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have few minutes left. So I will let everyone to share some exciting updates in few months coming into the market and how users can participate. Yeah.
A shill?
Yeah.
A personal shill? For Renzo?
Yeah.
For everyone? Yeah. I mean, I've spoke to some of the metrics, I guess, for Renzo already. 6 L2s, we'll have 8 in the next few weeks. It's a big portion of our TVL. It's continuing to grow. 80 plus DeFi integrations, as I mentioned. So I don't know. Things are really, really exciting right now. We're actually the #1 asset on Mode. So there's more Easy ETH on Mode than ETH, which is pretty crazy. We're #2 on Linea. We're #3 on Blast. So we have 230 million on Arbitrum, around 160 million on Blast, around 120 million on Mode, and around 75 million on Linea. And that's pretty incredible and something we're really proud of. So it's going to continue to be a focus for us, our push with layer 2s. I think with Denkun and 4844 and Blob Space, like it's a big unlock from a user experience perspective. We allow native restaking on the rollups. So users are interacting with smart contracts on the rollups themselves. So you select the network and then you can restake on the network. And we batch the ETH back to mainnet, stake it, restake it, etc. But previously users who had assets on L2s, you have assets on Arbitrum, you'd have to bridge back. So you literally have to leave the L2 to get exposure to restaking, which is it's a new primitive, right, that everyone's super excited about. So I think that's important to understand. I think April is going to be a really exciting month for probably all of us. There's still a lot to be understood, I think, but when there's market dynamics, there's risk, there's reward, there's supply, there's demand. It's a really exciting time, and really happy to be working in this sector, working with the EigenLayer team, working with my fellow panelists, and we're all working together. I think that's the really cool part. Is I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it's a bit of a flywheel. We're all helping each other, and there's a lot of coordination. There's operators, there's AVSs, it's a lot. But I think we're doing a great job so far. So yeah, we'll see what's next. But yeah.
All right. So for Stakestone right now, I think we're running a carnival. We're airdropping points. I think we are going to wave 2 soon. So just check out carnival.stakestone.io. So that's where we are farming. You can farm more points before we TGE actually. Yeah, if you need an invite code, just feel free to look for me. Yeah, thank you.
So in the coming few months, there are 4 major things that I think is really important at Puffer. One is the mainnet. Second is the DNA. Third is L2, and fourth is the nodes. So I'll talk about each real quick. So the mainnet is the eigenlayer mainnet, which also includes, Puffer launching its mainnet. We recently just launched our testnet, so you can already try it out. The second part I mentioned, DNA. You might ask what I mean by DNA. So I think right now, most of the LRT protocol, when a user chooses, right, they might not understand, which LRT protocol to choose. And it's true, right? So I think it's really about like different DNA and what you like about each other. And I think, we're going to announce a new line of investor that I think will be really exciting, that really differentiate Puffer from the rest of the LRT market. Thirdly is L2. We see that, we talk about AVSs, right? And I think L2 will make a lot of sense to use what Puffer is building, what EigenLayer is building, and create this new L2 that we believe could be essential. And having guys like Curve and multiple DeFi OG in the Puffer DNA could help us build out L2. And lastly is about the physical node. So if you think about it right now, if you have ever run an Ethereum validator, you're most likely using GCP, AWS, or Azure. So you're using cloud computing to do that. So if you think about what, Ethereum is right now, it's also very much centralized in a way that one of these giants can essentially turn off Ethereum. So what we really need to figure out a way is how do we make sure that these validator is not only decentralized in a proof of stake manner, mathematically, but also decentralized that it's run by physical validator that each you and I own. So I think Solana kind of proved that in the economic incentive value where they give airdrop to the Solana saga. So what Puffer is also going to be focusing on is making it possible that you and I can have this plug and play. And, this comes back to the DNA that I mentioned, us having strong connection in the semiconducting powerhouse in Taiwan allow us to have those connections to create these physical nodes that to economic scale. So essentially, in the future, you might be able to just buy this physical node, plug and play, and then, having that special machine code and enable, multiple protocol around the Ethereum or the EVM realm to give you token, right? Why do people airdrop to Solana Saga? It's because whoever that holds Solana Saga is essentially, Solana Maxi, right? So whoever that holds and own one of these Puffer physical node are basically trying to make Ethereum even more decentralized, not only on, like I said, on the staking matter, but also no one can close it down and turn it off. And that's what we're doing in the future. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I see we are running out of time, so so I'll keep it short. As OpenLayer, we will launch. We have partnered with dozens of L1, L2 chains to use us as our tools, and we have partnered with dozens of operators to support us in EigenLayer ecosystem. We are going to launch testnet next week and then mainnet next month. And welcome to follow us on Twitter, Discord, Telegram. Yeah.
All right. It's the end of this panel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.